Chapter 1032, Forceful Purifier. Restraining his thoughts and looking at the angel of concealment across him, Klein deliberated over his words. Is there a possibility that the ruins you saw was actually imagined? He didn't directly mention Adam or the Twilight Hermit Order, afraid that discussing such matters in Ariana's concealment zone would still be heard by the Adam who wielded the Spectator Pathway's uniqueness and recently obtained 008. As he was inside Ariana's world of concealment, Klein believed that thinking of Adam and the Twilight Hermit Order wasn't likely to pose any problems, but it wasn't necessarily the case when saying it out loud. After all, Mr. Dorr could freely discuss Adam with Emperor Roselle back then, not only because of the beyonder powers of a secret sorcerer's secret keeping, but more so because he was also a king of angels, a level not lower than Adam and Ammon, perhaps even higher. Imagined? Ariana repeated Klein's keywords softly as though she had figured out something. At her level, she was no stranger to ancient history and the main characteristics of the 22 pathways. Furthermore, she was also an angel that represented the authority of concealment. She possessed the highest clearance in reading all the church's confidential information. A few seconds later, Ariana observed Dwayne Dance, who remained sitting there. Psychology alchemists. From Kona's Kilgore's statement, it was obvious that the King's faction was working with the psychology alchemists. And this was an organization that had the Spectator Pathway in its control. Klein first nodded and then added, their higher-ups likely do not have the ability of turning imagination into a reality. In this world, there are only 1 to 2 people who have such authority. Ariana nodded in thought. I understand. Now that the underground ruins are open to us, I will find a chance to verify it. If it's true, it means that 1 or several archbishops of the Church of Steam and Storms are working for him. She didn't raise the possibility that the Church of Evernight's upper echelons were problematic, as the goddess wielded the authority of concealment. It was very difficult to keep such matters from her for prolonged periods of time. Klein couldn't help but ask in surprise, the underground ruins will be left open to the 3 churches. Yes, if it truly is imagined. It means that their cooperation is on the brink of success and that they just need to delay things a little longer. Ariana simply explained her theory. This is also what I'm thinking. The tide of the times is coming in a bid to drown out everything. Thankfully, I'm a lot more prepared than before. I now have a demigod-level marionette, and in certain areas, he's stronger than me. After all, he can use my beyonder powers while I can't use his. Since I can't digest the Bizarro Sorcerer Potion anytime soon and seek my advancement, strengthening my marionette is also an effective measure to protect myself. I can also take note of the Sanguines and Miss Sharon's plot against the Rose School of Thought. Klein's thoughts instantly turned clear. He reined in his thoughts and casually asked, do all 3 churches doubt Prince Grove's explanation? They don't, Ariana frankly shook her head. Kona's Kilgore had mentioned Katarina. But you don't have evidence. After all, they can explain that, after they split with the Demoness sect, Katarina was sent to discuss things and attempt to make amends, but was cruelly rejected. During this process, as they knew each other's secrets, none of them took action at the meeting. It could then be explained that Kona's Kilgore, a demigod who wasn't privy to the matter, made the mistake that the cooperation effort was still in place. And faced with an angel family, one that wields at least half the forces in the military, the 3 churches won't immediately lose decorum with them unless there's evidence. Firstly, they aren't united, and they have to consider that if a civil war were to erupt, countries like Fainapotter, Intis, and Fainapotter, as well as the churches of Eternal Blazing Sun, God of Combat, Earth Mother, and the God of Knowledge and Wisdom might try to take advantage of the situation. Klein quickly came up with an analysis of the present situation. He simply mentioned, there were signs of Saintess of White Katarina appearing over at Viscount Stratford's side. I will try to find her. Apart from that, Klein still wanted to find the dangerous Trissy and eliminate her, making up for his mistake of letting her go just because he wanted to use her. Her value was clearly not as dangerous as her. I'll try to do so as well. Ariana indicated that she would investigate the clue regarding Katarina. I have to say that Ma'am Ariana's attitude when discussing matters with me is rather comforting. She doesn't exude that condescending attitude an angel or archbishop has. She completely treats me as an equal. After hearing Ariana's words, Klein felt a baffling sense of poignancy. He instead asked, "Has H. Vin Rambus of the Psychology Alchemists been captured?" This was one of the key figures mentioned in the information from Kona's Kilgore's testimony, one of the clues that exposed the machinations of the king's faction. "He has gone missing," Ariana answered succinctly. As expected, the possibility of a leak has increased again. H. Vin Rambus has gone underground, but that doesn't mean that he can't contact Miss Justice and other members directly. When the time comes, Miss Justice has already hated him for some time. The only problem is whether Adam will appear in Backland and imagine fake ruins. If that were the case, attacking H. Vin Rambus might mean a non-zero probability that he's being watched by this king of angels. It might even be the case that he will sit beside H. Vin Rambus without anyone knowing. The more Klein thought, the more of a headache he had. It had to be said that in an era in which deities rarely descended upon the real world, the two brothers, Adam and Ammon, were the limits to one's level and strength. They were synonymous with being terrifying, powerful, frightening, and formidable. A king of angels was an existence closest to that of a deity. Compared to Ammon, I'm more afraid of Adam. He might be sitting beside you, listening to you and watching you smile while he reads your most truthful thoughts, making you die in the most natural, logical, but baffling manner. At this thought, Klein couldn't help but look around, afraid that the simple priest with pure-looking eyes and beard would be holding a tray, standing beside the roasting rack as he waited for the food and watched him with a smile. Without a doubt, Klein didn't discover anything. Noticing his reaction, Ariana calmly added, "He isn't here." Phew, thankfully, there's the blessings of an angel of concealment. Klein controlled his thoughts and nodded gently. "I will take note of H. Vin Rambus's whereabouts." Ariana nodded and said, "After this matter is over, you can attempt to pray to the goddess for a bestowment. That is to say that the goddess is very satisfied with my performance up to now. When the time comes, she will bestow me with the scholar of your potion formula." Klein roughly understood Ariana. He stood up and tapped his chest 4 times. "Praise the lady." Ariana also drew the crimson moon. "Praise the lady." Her figure disappeared bit by bit as though she had been erased. Yet, the guests at the bonfire party didn't notice the arrival of the ascetic at all. Klein sat down again and continued analyzing his situation from another angle. Kona's Kilgore disappeared without any warning. From the evidence presented by Ma'am Ariana and the words she said, it implied that the Me-9 deputy director is in her hands. In other words, the assault on Kona's Kilgore is definitely related to the Church of Evernight. Kona's Kilgore disappeared in Mager Manor, which belongs to Dwayne Dance, and he is a believer of the Evernight goddess. From what the King's faction and the Psychology Alchemists know, Dwayne Dance can likely be confirmed to be a secret informant of the Church of Evernight. This way, my safety can be guaranteed, but I can't avoid being observed and monitored. I have to be careful. I have to think of a reason to add a new servant. I can't keep having Kona's Kilgore or Inuni hide in this manner. This will make it easier for a problem to be discovered. Or maybe I can make one marionette turn into human skin clothes, fusing with the other marionette. As he thought, Klein stood up and placed the glass of sweet white wine on the table beside him. He then turned to walk to the main building of the manor and entered one of the bathrooms. He then took 4 steps counterclockwise and arrived above the gray fog. He summoned the Sea God Scepter and used the prayer point he marked as Inuni to observe every corner of Mager Manor. During this process, Klein's mind was somewhat tense, worried that he would see a priest wearing simple clothes while having a beard and golden eyes. Of course, compared to seeing this priest, he was more afraid of the priest looking up and smiling back at him, raising the cup of wine in his hand. Fortunately, after a series of inspections, he confirmed that there was nothing unusual with Mager Manor. Klein heaved a sigh of relief and retracted his spirituality. He then cast his gaze at the bronze cross on the long-modeled table. This was an item that the magician and Judgment had recently sacrificed. They said that it was to thank Mr. Fool for his blessings and hope to please this existence. It doesn't look like its level is low. Klein picked up the spiky cross and used divination to quickly figure out the mystical items, beyonder powers, and negative effects. Both of them were one and the same. The bronze cross could cleanse powers of degeneration, corruption, corrosion, darkness, evil, ailments, and other domains, quickly causing them to dissipate until nothing was left. Due to this reason, this mystical item could also clear the mental corruption of beyonder characteristics. And it was precisely because of this potent purification that the bronze cross couldn't coexist with other mystical items or be in contact with other beyonder characteristics. It couldn't exist on the same person. Furthermore, it also repelled the wielder's beyonder characteristic, albeit not in a manner that was as obvious. Over the passage of time, it would slowly cause a beyonder's characteristic to seep out. This also meant that if one were to carry or wear the bronze cross for more than an hour, the beyonder sequence would drop by at least one sequence. Beyond 3 hours, non-demigods would definitely be reduced to an ordinary person. Exceeding 6 hours, Sequence 4 and Sequence 3 saints would also lose their beyonder powers. It was almost ineffective against angels because they had the ability to shatter beyonder characteristics. They had extremely strong control over their source of power. It can be used to retrieve the characteristics of beyonders who failed to advance without dying or from those who lost control. This cross's powers resemble the sun pathways unshadowed. Klein nodded thoughtfully.